Today we're going to be doing a oil change on a Kia Optima Hybrid, a 2013 model. Not much that you need. If you've done the oil filter before, you shouldn't need an oil filter wrench. I don't, because I properly lubricate, and I'll show that to you later. What I was saying is I properly lubricate the oil ring on the oil filter, and if you do that, there's no reason for a wrench, even if you put it on very tight. But we'll get to that later. So what you definitely need is some oil that you like. If you look in the manual, it says 4.76 quarts for the oil for the 2.4 liter that is in the hybrid. And then if you look at the oil viscosity chart, right around 45, 50 degrees, maybe 55 if you want to just group that range, it actually recommends to go to 5W30, and it just says to use 5W20 for fuel economy. Obviously it's a hybrid, so you want the best fuel economy, but I figured I'd try this fuel economy stuff that Mobil 1 has, because I am in Florida. It's spring and summer's coming, so this oil is going to see, you know, the days when it's going to be getting into the 80s and 90s. So I would sacrifice a little bit of fuel economy when it comes to protection, because when the hybrid, the battery is depleted, like if you're at a stoplight or, you know, maybe even a drive-through, the engine just sits there at 1500 RPMs to charge the battery up. So 1500 RPMs after the engine's already warmed up and the car is hot, you know, it's going to take a little bit of, you know, it's going to put a little heat into it. So, but anyways, got the 17 millimeter Harbor Freight Special wrench here. Got the oil, big 5-gallon or 5-quart jug from Walmart. Then oil filter. All the Kia oil filters are pretty much the same as far as the 4-cylinder models. I've been told, and after doing some research, the OEM filter is what the motor performs best with. So you're going to see when I take it off, the oil filter that's off on it right now. It's a Wix XP, which is a synthetic media. So that was around the time that I was trying to research oil filters a little bit, so I thought those oil filters are good. So I'm just going back to the OEM, because if the OEM puts these out, they're going to be good enough as far as I can tell, you know. And that's also good, you know, they make very good stuff. And then also too, when you get the oil filter, you want to get one of these crush washers. It crushes down underneath the oil drain bolt, so that way it doesn't allow any leaks. So if you need a flashlight, it's a nice sunny day, and I've actually got a light underneath the car to allow us to see. So the last thing I need to grab is my oil pan, secondary oil pan. So just throw that underneath the car. I'll show you how I use that in a second. One thing I do like to do is pull the dipstick, make a little vent, and then just to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the oil cap, because you don't want to drain the oil and then all of a sudden you can't get oil back into the motor. So I just kind of do that. That also helps vent it. And then you'll find your own way to support the car. I like using my ramps. Simple, quick, and easy, and you don't have to worry about marking up the bottom of the car by putting on jacks, jack stand, whatever you want to do it. So ramps to me are just so much simpler, and they're a good investment. So I got my oil pan. I emptied it earlier. That's what the jug was sitting on my bench for. And then the bolt is right here, 17 millimeter. Just give it a tap, and that seems about right. And then as soon as the oil starts dripping, you just pull it out, and you'll see that the aluminum washer that was on there before has come off with it too, so that's good. I don't have to worry about that. So the oil is draining now, nice and black. This oil has probably got about 5,100 miles, 5,200 miles. I do my wife's oil about every 5,000. She's got about 20,200 on it right now. So And then I've got a light set up for the oil filter. You can also see it underneath this hole. It's an access. I've seen older Optimas where they had a whole shield here. This is a hybrid. I don't know why they wouldn't want to do it unless they found out that it was just useless. So let's get the oil filter off. So as you can see, the oil filter just comes off pretty easily. Move my flashlight. That thing's $90. I don't want to get that all oily. So I'll put that right to the edge. And you can hear, I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but you can actually hear the oil bubbling in the motor as it's draining a little bit from the top side. So let's get the oil filter undone. So that's going to leak a little bit. Oil filter is dripping now. I'm getting my hands dirty because I forgot my paper towels. But we'll just loosen this. That comes out. And there's the Wix XP. So these filters are like 10, actually I think they're like, if you get them in a store, they're like $14 a piece. So, but they're also, if you can get the Napa Platinum, it's the exact same thing. Wix makes the Platinums. So if you want to try it or whatever, it's a 51334 XP. But I can't remember what the Napa Platinum number is. But Wix actually makes the Napa Platinum for them. So let's look back up there so you can see a little bit of the oil is still on there, kind of dripping. It gets a little bit on this plastic, so I usually wipe that up a little bit, and so I usually let that drip a little bit. Alright, so the next thing, well, that's dripping a little bit. We'll get a washer. I'll stick that in my pocket so that way I don't forget it when I go back over there. Pull the plastic off. Just throw it in there, it's easier. Alright, and then what you want to do is you want to preload your oil filter. You want to make sure there's good oil pressure, or at least oil in the filter right away. So just fill it up, it'll bubble. Only thing I don't like about these big jugs is because you have to hold this whole thing. I mean, I've got a measuring thing back there, but it's dirty. It's been sitting in the garage for months. So just let that bubble a little bit. So, and then what I was talking about with lubricating the oil ring, or the gasket, whatever you want to call it, O-ring, is there's a little bit of oil right here. Take your finger, obviously make sure that it's not dirty from the other stuff, and then just wipe it along here. You can even wipe your finger on the inside to get a little bit more. And if you do this, it's almost pretty much guaranteed you will never have to use a wrench, because the reason why they oil filters stick is because people don't put oil on that. You get that hot metal against rubber, it deteriorates, and then it starts sticking to the actual metal itself of the oil filter housing. New oil filter. And we'll go right up in there. this new Kia / Hyundai oil filter. Make sure it's nice and tight. Washer. Just wipe this off really quick. There, that's a slow drip. I'm happy with that drip. Means we got a decent amount out. And then tap that a little bit. 17 millimeter. I can't remember the torque spec, but you know, just kind of tight. The aluminum washer will crush down a little bit and hold it in place and stop any leaks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and obviously it's up here, so wherever the line was at the beginning, so it's 4.76, so we're gonna end up down about right here. Put that right there. So we're probably, I mean, that's 4 right there, a little over 4. So the lines are right here, just below this other line. So maybe a half a quart more. About right here, which is probably about perfect. If we check the oil right now and it's a little high, that's fine, because remember the oil filter is not slap full of oil. So you can slap full it of oil, but the oil filter housing is not pointing straight down. So, you know, beware of that. You know, you don't want to spill oil on you and then get oil all over the oil filter, because then it'll be slick. So, and you can even see the cap, it says 5W20. They're all emphasis on fuel economy, which is fine, which is why we buy hybrids, and there's hybrids out there, but you know, they're with temperatures, and even in the Hyundai, or not the Hyundai book, the Kia book, it even says when it gets around 50 degrees, you can even check it yourself if you have a hybrid or even a regular car. Once it gets around 50 degrees, they recommend to go up to the 5W30. So we're right at the full mark right there. So some of the oil probably hasn't come out of the head into the pan. And then, like I said, the oil filter is not slap full, so that'll go down a little bit, but I don't see much. So let's get in and start the car. Well, turn it on. Let's double check. I know I never have a problem, but there's no drips or anything from oil coming out of the bolt or the oil filter. So we got that tightened. Oil pan bolt is there, tightened. And then you'll see the engine oil service. So service complete, reset. So they're just reset back to 5,000 miles. I don't have the tire rotation thing on, just because I don't want another alarm. So you can see the car is on right now. It's fired up, ready to go, but obviously the engine's not on. And it's not going to come on until at least 2 or 3 more bars go away. So obviously we'd be sitting here a while. So let's just give it a little bit of gas. There, it just fired up. And you see the oil pressure light come on. So, and you can see it's at 1500. So I mean, literally 0 to 1500 just like that. So then what you want to do, make sure there's no leaks, which there isn't. Obviously the oil pressure light came on, or went off, so you don't have to worry about no oil pressure. And just let it run. I usually let it run until it shuts off. Alright, she's back in electric mode because it added a bar to the battery. So the way this car is designed, it's supposed to keep the battery between 3/4 and 1/4. That's the good spot for the battery to extend its life. You never want to go over, you can go over 80% of a battery, but technically it does shorten its life a little bit. So car's still on, but we're just going to check the oil. You can do that if the engine decides to fire up, but you can hear the inverter water pump still working. If you look right here, you can see the inverter water coolant, I should say, moving around. I looked in the manual. It doesn't say anything about any type of HEV specific coolant, so I'm assuming it's regular coolant. I've even looked online, so I can't find anything that specifies specific coolant. I think Toyota does, but I mean, technically it's coolant in the end. So, but whatever. Alright. So, we're a little down. It's about right here. That's the L for low, so let's just top it off. Maybe it's at like 4.6 or something. What's nice about those jugs though too is once you're done, if you don't think you're going to need any oil to top off with through the next oil change, you just put your old stuff in that and bring it to AutoZone. I think some people say Walmart does it. There's actually a household waste management place in my county. That's where I take oil. You can take paint there and everything like that. So. And that is it. That is a Kia Optima Hybrid oil change. It's just the standard 2.4 liter with an electric motor attached to it on the transmission side. So probably very similar to the regular 2.4 liter Kia hybrid, not hybrid, the EX or the LX or whatever. So I believe they have the 2.4 liter. But I believe they're all based off the Gamma series, so even the 2 liter Turbo Optima would be somewhat similar, and all oil changes are going to be similar. You know, pop the oil drain bolt, take the oil filter off, you know, find it wherever it's at. All my cars I've ever owned, a 4-cylinder has always been up towards the front like this car has. I had a Ford Ranger one time, and it was in the back corner. But that was a long ways mounted rear-wheel drive vehicle. So front-wheel drive, the oil filter is usually up front from now on. I know Honda used to put them on the back, but as far as the Optima and the Kia, even my car, oil filter is right up front. So really simple. You know, however long it takes you, you know, take your time. Spend a few minutes with the car that you don't get to spend while you're driving. You can clean up things around it, check your other fluids, coolant. Mine's right in the middle. HEV coolant. The fill line, the max line is actually right where all these little bubbles are at. So it's, if not at max, it's just a hair below it. So, alright, that is it. Good luck.